People love tactility. When we see a furry, beautiful, or simply unusual animal, we tend to get close and touch it. But we should never do that. This is It's Wild, and in this 1 hour-long episode, you'll see the 100 most dangerous and rarest animals in the world. Mute swan. Let's start with the swans. Surprised? If yes, then this is normal because, in the understanding of many people, swans are beautiful and graceful birds which can only delight and certainly do no harm. But in reality, everything's different. There's no doubt that swans are real beauties, but you should admire them at a safe distance. You don't need to go near a swan to touch and stroke it. This applies to all swans because they're not very fond of strangers or even animals, and they actively protect their nests and offspring. This rule especially works for the mute swan, a huge bird with a wingspan of up to 7.8 feet. The mute swan is a serious and aggressive animal, which is excellent with its wings and its beak. The bird can leave not just cuts and scratches, but also break bones of its offender. History knows such cases of attacks on humans. By the way, swans are the most dangerous in the water. It's known about several cases when swans attacked people in boats. They fell overboard, and the swans prevented them from getting on the boat or swimming to shore. Slow loris. This animal is even cuter than the graceful swan. If the swan can scare away an outsider with its huge wings, then the slow loris inspires no fear at all. A cute little beast which is only 8 to 12 inches long, having big, beautiful eyes. What can it do? How about a ticket to the next world? The slow loris could very well arrange such a one-way trip, not only for animals but humans as well. Despite its charming appearance, the slow loris is a very dangerous primate because it's the only known genus of venomous primates. The venom is secreted by glands on the front limbs. Mixed with saliva, the venom is either smeared on the head to scare off predators, or it lingers in the mouth, allowing the slow loris to bite, particularly painfully. If a slow loris senses danger, it will either immediately put the venom to work or quickly suck it from its elbow and bite its prey. A venomous bite not only causes discomfort, but can also cause suffocation and later death. It's definitely not a good idea to touch these beauties. Leopard seal. It's unlikely that many of you will ever encounter a leopard seal in the wild. After all, these creatures live in the Antarctic seas. But if you find yourself on the icy continent, you'd better avoid encounters with leopard seals. Stay away from them, and touching is out of the question. Although outwardly the leopard seal is a real beauty that loves to smile, you shouldn't be fooled by it. In fact, it's a dangerous predator which is able to defeat seals and penguins at a blink of an eye. Scientists say that only one animal can compete with it, and it's the killer whale. That says a lot. But the leopard seal is dangerous not only to Antarctic animals, but also to humans. Sometimes these predators attack humans. For example, in 2003, British scientist Kirsty Brown became a victim of such an attack while diving in the water. A leopard seal dragged her underwater and swam to a depth of 230 feet, where he held her until she drowned. Leopard seals are not afraid to attack boats and often jump out of the water to grab a human and drag them mercilessly into the icy abyss. Even orcas are not such vicious creatures in relation to people. Panda ant. What would a hybrid between a panda and a wasp look like? Probably something like this. Although the animal has the word ant in its name, it's actually a wasp belonging to the velvet ant family. It's called the panda ant for its color, like the Chinese puppy bear. The panda ant is native to South America. Because of its unusual appearance, the insect misleads many locals who don't even suspect that it's a wasp and try to touch it. Touching even an ordinary wasp can be disastrous, let alone the panda ant, which is considered one of the most dangerous wasps on the planet. Panda ants are endowed with an extremely dangerous and powerful toxin that can finish off even a cow in just a couple of bites. For this reason, this wasp has been nicknamed the cow killer. In addition to cows, the bite of this insect can also seriously affect humans. Severe pain in the area of the bite lasts for a couple of hours. Of course, it's not fatal, but you must admit it's not very pleasant. Anteater. Here's another inhabitant of South America with an ant name. In this case, though, it makes more sense. Anteaters fully justify their name by eating ants in huge quantities. They also love termites. These funny creatures can devour up to 30,000 insects a day. Although anteaters are really funny and cute on the outside, you should stay away from them, especially from giant anteaters. Although anteaters are not predators, they're large. Some individuals reach 4.2 feet in length and weigh up to 88 pounds. The anteater has no teeth, but it has long, sharp claws. If the anteater gets insects with its 23.6-inch tongue, then it defends itself from predators and other enemies with its claws. Anteaters are not afraid even to fight with jaguars, which they sometimes defeat, let alone a human. At best, a blow with a powerful paw will knock a person out or leave deep wounds on the skin. And at worst, it'll finish them off. Box jellyfish. It's unlikely that many people would want to touch a jellyfish. After all, most people know that these beautiful sea creatures are quite dangerous and can sting. If you watched SpongeBob SquarePants, you remember how SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward were constantly getting hurt by these cnidarians. Still, there are some jellyfish out there that you'd really like to touch. For example, box jellyfish. They're the most beautiful jellyfish, with an unusual bell and long tentacles. Once in the sea, it'll be difficult to resist the temptation to swim up to such a beauty. But actually, it's better to swim away from it as far as possible. Because, in fact, box jellyfish is a very dangerous creature that produces potent venom. Consequences can be different. In some cases, it's limited to headache, sweating, and nausea. And in others, the consequences are cardiovascular collapse and death. The only way to be saved is to use an antidote. There are also other ways to fight these jellyfish. For example, on beaches where these creatures live, special nets are stretched to prevent these dangerous creatures from swimming into the bathing area. Portuguese man-of-war. There's another jellyfish on the way. That's what you might think when you look at this creature. In fact, although the Portuguese man-of-war looks like a jellyfish, it's a colony consisting of polypoid and medusoid individuals which together look like a jellyfish. A large transparent bubble at one end of the colony, which is up to 12 inches in size, is filled with gas and keeps it on the surface of the water. That's why the Portuguese man-of-war mostly swims within human sight, and quite a few people would want to touch such an amazing creature. It's better not to do this because the bubble has tentacles, which can reach up to 164 feet when unfurled. These tentacles, which in addition are barely visible due to the translucent color, have a huge number of stinging cells, the venom of which is dangerous to humans. A person attempting to stroke this creature may become entangled in its tentacles. The effect will be similar to an electric shock. The Portuguese man-of-war will sting, and the person will most likely not be able to free themselves. Many people who were entangled in the tentacles of this creature were never able to get to shore. So it's better to stay away from the Portuguese man-of-war. Golden poison frog. When we talk about frogs, we think of green amphibians that live near ponds, sing, and eat flies. But frogs come in all kinds. There are even such yellow individuals among them. It may seem like some kind of mutant, but it's a separate species that lives in South America. Many tourists traveling through those parts would want to touch such an unusual individual, but that decision could be their last. Just touching it is enough to be dead. All because these frogs are very poisonous. Scientists unanimously state that the golden poison frog is one of the most poisonous vertebrates on Earth. If a person touches a golden poison frog and the poison gets on their skin, they can get away with nothing more than severe poisoning. If the frog's poison gets on the mucosa, then most likely a lethal outcome is unavoidable. Many local aborigines have heard of this and use the poison of golden poison frogs to lubricate arrowheads. One frog can be enough for several dozen arrowheads. Shrew. You may not have heard of the yellow frogs before, but many of you probably know about shrews. These animals look harmless. They look like meek mice with a trunk that they waggle amusingly in search of food. But in fact, shrews are not harmless at all. When it comes to food, these creatures can be called some of the most voracious in the world. In one day, they eat more than their own weight. Otherwise, they'd simply die. But they pose a danger not only to their prey, they're also potentially dangerous to human. First, some species of shrews are venomous, and their bite can cause a number of dangerous and unpleasant symptoms. Second, not so long ago it became known that certain species of shrews are carriers of hantavirus, which ends with fever with renal or pulmonary syndrome. So it's a good idea to stay away from these insect eaters. Man-eater catfish, monstrous fish with a dragon's mouth, freshwater sharks. Stay tuned, because now you'll see what the most dangerous river monsters can do. Tigerfish. 32 sharp teeth, each of which looks like a fang. Length is about 5 feet, weight's about 110 pounds, bloodthirstiness, aggression, and an eternally bad mood. This is the incredible combination of a real monster. Tigerfish has it all. It's one of the most famous and at the same time one of the most dangerous freshwater monsters in the world. The tigerfish is a real predator that deals shortly with its prey. It's an omnivore, so everything from plants and fish to birds and even small mammals get into its mouth. There have even been documented cases of tigerfish attacking crocodiles. These monsters usually hunt in schools, so a whole army of these creepy toothed monsters can kill anyone, including humans. History knows many cases of tigerfish attacks on people, and many of them ended badly. If you ask me, it's a great reason to never go into the Congo River in Africa. Tigerfish are mostly found there. Bull shark. Wherever but in rivers, we do not expect to see sharks. After all, these monsters live in seas and oceans, and it would seem that at least in the rivers we can get away from them. Yes, but not from the bull shark. These predators, which are considered the most dangerous and aggressive of all the sharks in the world, often enter freshwater rivers, swimming long distances upstream. They are so comfortable in fresh water that entire populations of these sharks exist in some rivers. For example, several hundred of these monsters live in the Brisbane River in Australia. They can also be found on other continents, the Americas, Asia, and Africa. In Africa, by the way, these ferocious creatures are not afraid to attack even hippos. Theoretically, bull sharks can easily live in a river or a lake all their lives. But this still doesn't happen. These monsters prefer to reproduce in saltwater. Begarius. Every nation has its own scary legends about creepy creatures. There's such a legend in India as well, only it turned out to be not quite a legend but a reality. The main protagonist, or actually antagonist, is the catfish called Begarius or goonch. This is a species of local catfish distinguished by a particular ferocity and ruthlessness. It's believed that they reach 6.5 to 10 feet in length and weigh about 330 pounds. Goonch catfish mostly burrow on the ground and rise to the surface only for food. Having found something edible, the catfish seizes its prey, drags it to the bottom, and devours it. That'd be all right, but even humans become its prey. Since the 1990s, several cases of attacks on local people have been recorded. It's believed that the locals themselves are to blame for spawning such monsters. According to one version, Begarius' predilection for human flesh was formed because of an ancient Indian custom. After the funeral pyres, local residents lower the remains of deceased people into the rivers, which are dragged away by river inhabitants. Over time, goonch catfish like this new diet, and now they eat not only the remains but also living people. Catfish in general are capable of surprising. In many ways, they're often presented as fairly harmless creatures with funny mustache. There's little that's funny about catfish. At least the flathead catfish, the next animal of this episode, makes you feel discomfort, not smile. These fish live in the rivers of North America. They're quite large. The body length can reach 13 feet, and the weight up to 880 pounds. Although usually there are smaller individuals. But the main thing in these catfish is not the size, but the teeth and the jaws. Flathead catfish have trained them by eating carrion, but they don't eat only dead creatures. Flathead catfish hold river dwellers at bay, and they also attack waterfowl, small pets, and even humans. If a person is caught in the powerful jaws of this fish, they have almost no chance of getting away unharmed. At a minimum, they'd be injured, and at a maximum, they'd become a victim. Strange disappearances of swimmers and fishermen have been reported in North America, and locals believe it's the fault of the man-eating flathead catfish. Muskellunge. As it turns out, North American rivers are very dangerous places. You might find a creepy flathead catfish, a bull shark taking a break from the saltwater, or the largest pike in the world. This is the muskellunge. This pike can reach up to 6 feet in length and weigh about 66 pounds. Like all pikes, the muskellunge can boast gnarly teeth that easily do the job and deal with prey perfectly. Most of the muskellunge diet consists of fish, but can also include crayfish, frogs, ducks, snakes, mice, birds, and other small animals. The muskellunge bites can cause serious injury to humans as well. Moreover, the muskellunge doesn't just bite or defend cautiously. often it tries to drag the victim to the very bottom. There have been reported a few cases of these fish attacking humans, but no fatalities have been reported so far. Let's keep it that way. Anaconda. But this notorious monster is responsible for the lives of some people. According to rumors, the giant anaconda has sent several people to Kingdom Come. And if you put rumors aside, at least there's no doubt that anacondas attack humans. It does happen. And yet, the anaconda cannot be called extremely dangerous to humans. But it's a real monster for all South American animals. The anaconda is the heaviest snake in the world, weighing tens of kilograms. Some individuals can even weigh up to 220 pounds. Add to this the enormous length and incredible grip with which the reptile literally crushes its opponents, and you'll get an extremely dangerous animal. Anyone in the wrong place at the wrong time runs the risk of falling prey to the huge snake. The anaconda's prey includes capybaras, iguanas, and even caimans. Only powerful jaguars and fearless otters can compete with anacondas. Piara. South America is famous for other river monsters, and the piara is the next of them. This monster is also known as Hydrolycus scomberoides, but it's much better and easier to remember by another name, vampire fish. No, the piara does not emerge from its den at night, does not bite into the necks of jaguars and caimans, and does not fly away on its wings. The piara doesn't drink the blood of its victims, and it's so nicknamed because of its terrifying teeth. They're so large and sharp that they don't fit in the jaw, but nature's provided for everything. There are special holes in the upper jaw, thanks to which the two longest fangs located on the lower jaw do not pierce the upper jaw. It's commonly believed that the most dangerous fish in South America are the notorious piranhas, but this isn't true. The piara kill piranhas as easily as shelling peas, and in general, vampire fish hunts on almost anyone that's smaller than it. The piara also attacks humans, but this doesn't happen very often. Giant freshwater stingray. Like catfish, stingrays are not as simple as they seem. For example, in cartoons and animated movies, they're often portrayed as good-natured. Remember Finding Nemo, where the stingray would take the fish to school and sing them songs? But in reality, it's not like that. Many stingrays are real monsters. And the giant freshwater stingray is proof of that. This is a real giant, which can reach almost 6.5 feet in width and weigh up to 1,300 pounds. It lives in large rivers in Southeast Asia, and other river dwellers probably take this stingray for a flying saucer. So huge is it. These flat monsters feed on crustaceans and mollusks, which they detect by means of electroreception. If necessary, stingrays can fight back even large predators. They have a long venomous spine. It easily pierces not only the skin but also the bones. This also applies to humans. In addition, the giant freshwater stingray is capable of flipping the boats of humans who stay too long in its habitat. Yeah, that's certainly not a creepy tigerfish and certainly not a shark, but the giant freshwater stingray is still very dangerous, and you should stay away from it. Which spider is able to finish off its prey in just 10 minutes? What do the spiders with the most powerful jaws in the world look like? And where do arthropods live that can penetrate the human body? It's time to find out what the most dangerous spiders in the world can do. Brazilian wandering spiders. Not every spider has earned a place in the Guinness Book of World Records, but this spider has, and its title is epic, the most venomous spider on the planet. At the same time, it can be called the most dangerous spider in the world, although this title is claimed by another spider. You'll learn about it soon, but for now, let's talk about these arthropods. Contrary to the name, Brazilian wandering spiders can be found not only in Brazil, they're widespread in many territories of South and Central America, from Brazil, Venezuela, and Uruguay to Peru, Ecuador, and Guyana. These creatures are also called banana spiders. Firstly, they like to live on banana palms, and secondly, they frequently hide in banana boxes that are exported to European countries. The venom of this spider genus contains a powerful neurotoxin. In minimal doses, it's even useful and has a therapeutic effect, but in toxic concentration causes loss of muscle control with subsequent respiratory arrest, which leads to paralysis and eventually to asphyxiation. A spider bite is quite painful. The venom causes causes immediate infection of the lymphatic system, and its entry into the circulatory system leads to heart failure in 85% of cases. Insects and rodents die almost instantly. The death of larger creatures can come in 10 to 15 minutes. These spiders are aggressive and assertive, so they're a huge threat to literally any organism on the planet. Fortunately, there's an antidote for the venom of the Brazilian wandering spider, so the reported number of deaths from the bites of these spiders is small. There is also an antidote for the bite of the next dangerous spider, the Sydney funnel web spider from Australia. Many people call it the most dangerous spider on the planet. What's interesting, it's also listed in the Guinness Book of World Records. Together with the banana spider, it's considered the most venomous spider on the planet. The Sydney spider is smaller than the Brazilian spider, but in many aspects it's even more aggressive. It bites at almost every opportunity and does it several times in a row. In one attack, it inflicts several painful bites at once, leaving the victim with marks and other wounds. Its bite is very powerful. This spider can even bite through the fingernails of a human. The venom acts on the human nervous system and can finish them off. Fortunately, an antidote has been available to doctors since 1981, and no deaths have been reported since then. Interestingly, the venom of the Sydney funnel web spider is dangerous only to primates. At the same time, it has no effect on other mammals, such as dogs or cats. I wish I could call Sydney funnel web spiders the most biting in the world. After all, not every spider can bite through a fingernail. But in terms of jaw strength, these arthropods are still inferior to spiders of the Mesae-Schmau-Shenidae family. Spiders with such a complicated name demonstrate mind-boggling speed. Their jaws close in 0.12 milliseconds. Even in super slow motion, their bite looks incredibly fast. It's considered to be the fastest in the animal world. Therefore, these spiders simply cannot be called non-dangerous. By the way, they have another name, trap-jaw spiders. What's interesting, this is not the only such animal. There are ants with the same trap-jaw name. They're also known as Odontomachus. They too are distinguished by their super powerful jaws. The closing speed of the jaws in trap-jaw ants reaches 143 miles per hour. It goes without saying that no prey has time to dodge the attack of these living traps. Their jaws are so powerful that an ant can fly into the air simply by sharply closing their jaws and pushing them off the ground. But let's get back to spiders. Next up is a no less dangerous arthropod, the six-eyed sand spider. But actually, no less dangerous is an understatement. The fact is that with some reservations, this spider can be safely called the most lethal on the entire planet. It has a 100% lethality rate. All people who have been bitten by the spider have died. But not everything is so scary, because only 2 cases of an attack by a six-eyed sand spider on a person have been recorded. Still, it's truly dangerous. These creatures possess venom that produces a pronounced necrotic effect. It spreads instantly through the body and affects tissues. The bite can cause extensive necrosis of the affected areas. In addition, the venom can destroy red blood cells, causing oxygen deprivation. What's even creepier is that there's no antidote to the venom of these monsters. But it's not all that bad. Six-eyed sand spiders are not aggressive, they're fearful, shy, and try to avoid humans. So getting a fatal bite is not so easy. But just in case, these arthropods live in America, Africa, and South Asia. Keep this in mind. Not all spiders are dangerous to humans. Many of them are dangerous only to creatures as small as themselves. The spider Avarcha culicivora seems particularly epic in this respect. Otherwise, it's called the vampire spider. And that's the essence. It likes the taste of blood very much. The main prey of this arthropod is female mosquito. Not all of them, but only those that have recently tasted blood. This is the only animal known to science that chooses its prey based on what the preys eat. Vampire spiders can smell mosquitoes even blindly, but still their eyes help them a lot in the hunt. The spider species has excellent eyesight, which allows them to distinguish mosquito species based on their body structure as well as their sex by shape of their antenna. Based on smell and visual contact, the spider approaches the female mosquito in tree trunks and buildings and eats them. The preys are mostly malaria mosquitoes, the ones that spread malaria, which kill hundreds of thousands of people in Africa. But why is a spider doing this at all? Wouldn't it be easier to feed on the blood of a victim and leave the mosquitoes alone? No, it's not easier. Humans would swat vampire spiders the same way they swat mosquitoes, so any such vampire hunting humans would be risky. Mosquitoes, on the other hand, can't swat anyone, so it's much safer and more reliable to hunt them. Let's return to spiders, which are dangerous to humans. Spiders are dangerous not only with their powerful venom, painful bites, and other things. After all, they can also penetrate the human body. The This has happened more than once. For example, in 2014, the victim was Dylan Thomas. The guy came from Indonesia with an unusual scar. From the outside, it might look like a scar from surgery, but in fact, the bright red line is the marks of a tropical spider. At first, the scar wasn't that big and looked more like an ordinary bite, but after a couple of days, the red marks crept up. When Dylan returned home, he went to his doctor, who told him that the arthropod had entered his body through the scar from an appendectomy. But that's not the only case. For example, a couple of years ago, an elderly Chinese woman went to the hospital complaining of itching and sharp pain in her ear. The pensioner said there was ringing in her ears. As you've already guessed, there was a spider in the woman's ear. Not only it lived there, but also weaved a whole web inside. The doctor paralyzed the arthropod with eardrops and removed it with tweezers. Something similar had happened the year before. In 2019, a woman went to the doctor with complaints of pain in her ear. As it turned out, a small spider had settled in the external ear canal. They managed to get it out too. In fact, such cases are not at all uncommon. Spiders in the ears are a fairly common phenomenon. So if you have a sudden pain in your ear, you'll now know what cause may be. Chilean recluse spider. Still, venomous spiders are far more dangerous to humans than those that settle in the body. Next, we have just such a monster. Despite the name, the Chilean recluse spider lives not only in Chile, it can also be found in many countries of South Africa, from Peru, Ecuador, and Argentina to Uruguay and Brazil. It's one of the largest recluse spiders. The spider actually grows up to 1/3 to 5.5 inches in length. A large enough size is not all that it can scare with. Its bite is much more frightening because it's compared to a cigarette burn. After a while, it causes cell death and skin death. In some cases, death may occur. Lethality ranges from 3 to 4 to 10% of all cases. In addition, it takes many months to treat a painful bite. No wonder that this spider is considered the most dangerous among all recluse spiders. And finally, let's take a look at the largest spider on the planet, which is the Goliath tarantula, also known as the Goliath bird eater, or the Theraphosa blonde. Its size is frightening and astonishing. Its body length reaches 4 inches, which is unsurpassed, but much longer are the legs of these arthropods, which grow up to 12 inches in length. No wonder this spider practically doesn't fit on the palm of a human's hand. Very big. Fortunately, at least this spider is not so dangerous to humans. Of course, it can attack and bite, but the consequences of the attack will be limited to a few symptoms. The lethal outcome is out of the question. But the Goliath tarantula is dangerous for many animals. It eats mice, arthropods, lizards, worms, and amphibians. Sometimes it eats birds in order to somehow live up to its name, but this is the exception rather than the rule. The lion is one of the most famous animals on the planet, but not everyone is aware of the uniqueness of some lions. Some are distinguished by their unusual color, while others are incredible hybrid animals. Next, I'll tell you about the most unusual lions on the planet. Let's start with perhaps the most atypical lion on the planet. Look at these white lions. You can find many pictures and videos of these lions on the internet. But what is all this? Photoshop and editing? Or did these lions fall into a vat of paint? In fact, such lions do exist. One can definitely say that they are 1 in a million. Although there's no doubt in the existence of the white individuals, in the past no one at all believed in them. In Africa, where the lions lived, the white ones were considered a myth. While some locals believed that the white lions were some kind of legendary deities. Everything became clearer in 1938 when white lions were first seen in the wild. The first logical assumption is that these lions have albinism. It often occurs in other animals that turn completely white, but it's not that simple. White lions are white because of leucism, a particular color mutation. Unlike albinos, the eyes of individuals with leucism are normally colored. Today, there are only about 10 white lions living in the wild. In captivity, there are more of them. About 300 unique white lions are scattered in different nature reserves where they're carefully protected. White lions can rightly be called very rare, but there are other rare lions in the world, including entire species. Scientists believe that the Asiatic lion is one of these species. Yes, in case you don't know, lions roam not only the expanses of the African savannas, but also the Asian jungles. At least they used to. Asian kings of the jungle were distributed throughout South and Central Asia, and now they live only in the reserve of the Indian state of Gujarat. According to various sources, there are between 400 and 800 of them left. The Asiatic lion is similar to its African relative. For example, it's similar in appearance. It's also similar in size. The Asiatic lion is only slightly smaller than the African lion. but the way of its life is different. If African lions live largely in prides, which often total dozens of individuals, the Asiatic big cats live in small families. Usually the family consists of an alpha male, 2 to 3 females, and cubs. This is due to the fact that the Asiatic lion's food supply is smaller, and it doesn't have to hunt such large animals as African predators do. Although scientists are doing their best to preserve the Asiatic lion population, it's possible that these big cats will become extinct in the near future. The next lion from this episode has already faced that. I mean, it's extinct. Nevertheless, it still inhabits our planet. Some kind of Schrodinger's lion. I'm talking about the Barbary lion. The last Barbary lion living in the wild was shot in 1922. As a full-fledged subspecies, the Barbary lion is indeed extinct, but its genes have not been completely destroyed. Direct descendants of Barbary lions with mixed genes still live in the world today. Although they're not purebred, one look at them is enough to understand that they are different from ordinary African lions. The descendants of Barbary lions look formidable, rough, and even a little primeval. They have a thick, dark mane, stiff facial features, and coarse fur. These lions look as if they're always displeased with everything. And what is there to be happy about when humans have exterminated your distant ancestors? Barbary lions look very powerful because of their formidable appearance and large size. But ligers look much more powerful. Yes, the liger is not a full-fledged lion, but a hybrid offspring of a male lion and a female tiger. However, these creatures look more like giant lions than tigers. Roughly speaking, the liger can be called the biggest lion on the planet, and the biggest cat in general. These giants, who are bred and found only in captivity, inherit the best from their parents, resulting in a huge cat being born. The liger can reach a length of 13 feet or more, and its weight exceeds 660 pounds. This is 1/3 more than that of large lions. But this isn't the limit. The biggest liger in the world, named Hercules, is even bigger. He weighs 922 pounds, twice as much as an ordinary lion. At the same time, Hercules, like many other ligers, has good mobility, speed, and agility. Only the white liger can be more amazing and unique than the common liger. The first white liger on the planet appeared in December 2013 in a safari park in the USA. The mother of the unique creatures was a white Bengal tiger, and the father was a white African lion. Yes, one of the very ones I told you about at the beginning of this episode. This was the first time in history that a white lion successfully mated with a white tigress and produced white hybrid cubs. The white ligers became leucism carriers just like their parents. The 4 were named Odin, Samson, Yeti, and Apollo, and all were born healthy. Another unique hybrid with a lion's admixture is the Tigon. It's also called Tiglon or Tyon. While the liger is a hybrid between a male lion and a tigress, the Tigon is a hybrid between a lioness and a male tiger. Like ligers, Tigons are not found in the wild, as tigers and lions currently live in different habitats. Tigons are rare and unique animals that are endowed with the qualities of both parents. They may have spots from their mother and stripes from their father. A Tigon's mane, if it appears, will always be shorter than that of a lion. Tigons are usually smaller than lions, and Tigons weigh about 330 pounds. Although the Tigon is inferior in size to the liger, scientists believe that this hybrid can survive in the wild, but the liger cannot. It has higher speed and better developed senses. In any case, they're not going to be released into the wild. So far, Tigons are in captivity and even have fights with ligers. Check out one of these battles. Let's get back to ordinary lions. Actually, how can I call them ordinary ones when we have the giant record breakers next? The largest African lion in the world of all time is considered to be an individual shot by hunters in South Africa in 1936. There are no photos of the individual, but according to hunters, the animal weighed 690 pounds. As for the lions in captivity, one of the largest ones was an individual that lived in Dublin Zoo in Ireland. The lion set a record in 1959. At that time, he weighed 827 pounds and reached 10 feet in length. The record breakers include a lion named Mufasa from Montana. This giant was distinguished by a huge mane and no less huge weight. According to some reports, he weighed 639 pounds. All these figures are very impressive. In fact, as a rule, the weight of a very large lion rarely exceeds 550 pounds, and on average, lions weigh about 330 to 440 pounds. Feel the difference. Now let's move on to the little lions. In general, all lions are large in one way or another. It's not for nothing that they're called big cats. But among them there are not very large individuals. For example, northern lions. Otherwise, they're called Panthera leo. This subspecies inhabits the territory of West Africa and is inferior in size to its African relatives. Even large males may weigh only 330 pounds, while females are even smaller and lighter. They also differ from ordinary African lions in their way of life. Like Asiatic lions, the northern cats live in small prides, which are more like families. Also, they differ a little from ordinary lions externally. The manes of male northern lions are usually small, and some male northern lions have no mane at all. But northern lions are not only famous for this, they're also some of the rarest lions on the planet, because the subspecies is threatened with complete extinction right now. If a couple of decades ago the population of northern lions totaled 450 to 1,300 individuals, now, according to scientists, there are less than 300 of these predators left in the wild. Unfortunately, humans are largely to blame for this. Scar. And finally, I'll show you the lion that for a long time was called the most famous in the world. As you've already understood, his name was the same as that of the main villain from the Lion King animated movie. In 2007, he was born in the Kenyan Masai Mara National Reserve, where he lived until his death in 2021. Scar could not be confused with anyone else because he was missing one eye and half of his face was mutilated, just like the cartoon villain. In fact, that's why they called him Scar. It's believed that Scar received such gruesome injuries in a fight with other males. This happens all the time because African lions constantly have to defend their territory and the pride. Many of them die fighting for lionesses and supremacy. Scar ruled his pride for a long time, and all the locals knew about him. According to their recollections, for all his creepy appearance, the lion was kind and sweet. Unfortunately, in 2021, Scar passed away, but he died of natural causes, not in a battle with another strong lion. Such a death is considered very rare in the world of lions. Well, that's enough talking about dangerous creatures. Let's change the subject and talk about horses. After all, in the world of horses, there are some unique individuals, as in the case of lions. Some are able to pull multi-ton cargoes, barges, and ships. Others can replace powerful machines, and some are distinguished by lightning speed. Now you'll see what the world's strongest horses can do. Belgian Draft. Many horse experts unanimously recognize the Belgian Draft as the most powerful horse breed in the world. And it's hard to argue with that. The Belgian Draft is truly strong. Its large size helps it in this. It's about 5.5 feet tall and weighs almost 2,000 pounds. There are also many record breakers in terms of size, such as the horse named Big Jake, who passed away last year. Prior to that, for more than 10 years, he was considered the biggest horse in the world with a height of 6.8 feet. Belgian Draft horses are real bags of muscle. They're very useful in agriculture. Just one such horse can carry heavy logs and any other load all day long that's impossible for a man. And several Belgian Draft horses can replace the whole tractor, so these horses can literally be considered as machines. Belgian Giants are also capable of carrying people and pulling extreme weights with ease. For example, once at the National Western Stock Show in Denver, 2 Belgian Draft horses dragged 16,975 pounds to a distance of 7.1 feet. Pretty cool, huh? But that record was broken. It was made by the Shire horse breed. It's another draft horse, but from England. If Belgian Draft horses are considered the most powerful horses on the planet, Shires are probably the largest. There are real giants among them, which existence isn't even believed. So one of them, named Samson, is recognized as the biggest horse in history. He lived in the 19th century, his height was 7.1 feet, and weight of over 3,307 pounds. And this isn't the limit, because the Shire can weigh 3,968 pounds. These giants are capable of doing incredible things. For example, in this footage, these 2 horses were able to pull a load weighing over 8 tons. I can't say this is their limit. I think they could manage with 10 tons as well. It's not surprising, because shires were often used to tow barges, ships, and boats all the time when the canal system was the main method of transporting goods. In general, pulling weights is their genetic thing. Shires are also capable of handling almost any big weights in farming tasks. Perhaps only Belgian draft horses can match shires in terms of power. Percheron. But there are other horses that are not much worse than the English and Belgian giants. The Percheron, the next of them, comes from France. The French are proud of this breed because it, too, is capable of many things. Percherons are very handy, large, and strong. Since the beginning of the 19th century, these horses have been regularly used in agriculture. Percherons are very conscientious and hard-working creatures that will do anything they're asked to do. Drag a heavy load? Easy. Drag a stagecoach with people? Easy. Ride with a rider on back? Easy. Speaking about the latter, though the Percheron weighs around a ton and looks very powerful and large, it's quite agile and nimble. Riders note that Percherons are characterized by an energetic and soft riding. Therefore, it's very pleasant to ride them. These French animals are often used for horseback riding and in equestrian sports. Speaking of sports, there are many horses in equestrian sports, but only a few are distinguished by lightning speed. The thoroughbred is one of them. It's not as big as the Belgian draft or the Shire, but doesn't look overweight and doesn't weigh much. Only about 880 to 1,100 pounds. But it has a lot of power because this is the fastest horse in the world. Due to incredibly developed muscles, thoroughbreds can easily reach speeds of up to 37 miles per hour. And a horse called Winning Brew even set a Guinness World Record. In 2008, it accelerated 43.6 miles per hour. That's faster than leopards and tigers run during the hunt. Not surprising, the main purpose of thoroughbred horses is racing, where they often win. On the other hand, the rider must be as professional as possible because it's very difficult to stay on a horse that rushes like a car on a road. Dutch Draft. It's not uncommon to use these horses in equestrian sports as well. However, these Dutch animals are much bigger and more massive than thoroughbreds. The representatives of this breed from the Netherlands weigh up to 2,645 pounds at a height of 5.2 feet. But don't think that such weight means that the horse is fat. In this case, the mass of the horse is almost entirely represented by developed muscles. Dutch draft horses are very strong and large, so they're often used in cargo transportation. In the past, these diligent Dutch creatures were indispensable in agriculture work and transportation. They greatly facilitated the lives of farmers. Now the main work is done not by horses, but by cars. But Dutch draft horses are still used on some farms. However, nowadays they're much more often used in equestrian sports, where they also cope with their tasks very well. Suffolk Punch. Next, we have a rather old breed of horse. The Suffolk Punch originated as a breed in the British country of Suffolk in the 15th century. Interestingly, many zoologists believe that it was the Suffolk horse that gave rise to many breeds of powerful horses. If so, then Belgian draft horses, Shires, and Percherons owe their power to these British beauties. Unlike its distant descendants, the Suffolk Punch is not so large. However, it's not small either. It can weigh up to 2,000 pounds. Like the diligent French Percheron, the Suffolk horse likes to work and toil. Horses have long been used in agriculture, and for centuries, horses from Suffolk have plowed British fields and helped farmers to gather crops. Nowadays, Suffolk horses are used both as farm horses and as harness horses in urban settings and in show ring competitions. Clydesdale. Next up is the neighbor of the Suffolk horse. The Clydesdale breed was bred in Scotland in the 19th century from Flemish stallions and local mares. These horses are characterized by an impressive height that can reach 6 feet. They weigh a lot too, 1,760 to almost 2,000 pounds, though some Clydesdales are fattened up to a ton and more. In the early days of their careers, Clydesdales were used to haul coal as well as goods for the distilleries and breweries. Clydesdales were also active in helping farmers. Like many other strong horses, Clydesdales are still sometimes used on farms, but the main specialization of the breed has changed. Now these Scots are increasingly performing at horse races and various ceremonies. Let's move to the other side of the Earth, to the Western Hemisphere, where there are also powerful giants of their own. The American Cream Draft, bred in the early 20th century, perhaps stands out the most. Experts believe that the American Cream Draft came about by mixing the bloodlines of Percherons and Belgian draft horses, which you have already become familiar with today. Due to its large size, as well as its elegant appearance, the American Cream Draft was quickly spotted by many experts and breeders seeing its potential. That potential has not been lost. Large American Cream Draft horses have been used in farming for a long time. They're also actively used as ordinary riding horses. But all this couldn't have happened now. In the middle of the last century, technological advances led to the fact that American Cream Draft horses previously used in agriculture were sent to slaughter, and this almost led to their extinction. Fortunately, the breed was saved. Australian Draft. And finally, let's talk a little bit about this Australian heavyweight. To a certain extent, it's absorbed the qualities of all the horses I've already told you about. At least Australian draft horses have evolved from crossing such breeds as the Clydesdale, the Percheron, the Shire, and the Suffolk Punch. The result is a strong and large horse that weighs about a ton. The Australian draft horse is distinguished by its graceful and muscular body and broad proportions. Everything in this breed speaks of power, and appearance doesn't deceive. These Australians have incredible stamina, allowing them to be used for heavy farm work, towing carriages and railroad cars to docks and sidings. This breed is also widely used in various competitions and as recreational riding animals. The very dangerous river giants, the unusual lions, and the strongest horses. This is all very interesting. But what do we know about the rarest and most unique animals? I mean albinos. Keep watching to learn why other animals hate albinos. Albino elephant. Did you know that the Thais have a special superstition associated with the white elephant? It's customary for them that if you see one in person, it will be regarded as a happy omen. For example, the locals never use these animals in any kind of warfare. Elephants can only be used in religious and royal ceremonies. People in Thailand today react to the white elephant just as they did centuries ago. They immediately report that they found a white elephant to the appropriate department of the Bureau of the Royal Household. The commission of experts then carefully examines the animal and determines whether it has any special characteristics. These include white eyes, palate, nails, hair, tail, and a white or clay-colored skin. All of these are matched, then the animal is elevated to the status of royal elephants. Other nations consider the white elephant a symbol that the monarch rules the state fairly and wisely, which means that the state is blessed with peace and prosperity. With such good news, not so long ago, people encountered this baby elephant. It happened in the western part of Myanmar. The animal reportedly possesses 7 of the 8 auspicious characteristics of white elephants. I wonder if that'd be enough to classify it as a royal animal in Thailand. The rarest gorilla. Hardly any of you would imagine that there could have been a rare and unique gorilla in the world, but fortunately there was. I'm talking about a handsome creature named Snowball, whose uniqueness lay in the fact that he was an albino. The zoo in Barcelona welcomed Snowball in 1996 after he was caught in Equatorial Guinea and transported to Spain. After being seen by the locals, the albino became a favorite of the city. The gorilla was a subspecies of the western lowland gorilla, was well behaved in public, didn't get nervous, and liked to be fed with yogurt. Whether it was his unique body or such a warm attitude, but something of this definitely paid off, and Snowball lived for about 40 years, which is a real record for monkeys with such an anomaly. In 2003, the public favorite was euthanized. Anyone could come and say goodbye to the gorilla. They had to do it because the albino gorilla was suffering from an unusual form of skin cancer. Scientists think the disease developed precisely because he was an albino. After Snowball passed away, his cage was left empty with the blinds always down. There's always a bouquet of flowers, and there's a sign with the inscription, "We love you and we'll remember you." Albino crow. The expression white crow has long been a metaphor for the stark differences between this or that person and those around them. However, something tells me that many of you have not even guessed that white crows really exist and live, let's say, not the easiest life. For example, they're constantly pestered by their congeners, forcing them to justify themselves for such a ridiculous appearance in their opinion of their congeners. If a white crow will not be able to assert its rights, it will literally be doomed to constant bullying by its relatives, which isn't good. And it would be fine if everything ended with bullying, but this isn't the limit. As is known, many animals in the mating season attract partners by the brightness of their skin or feathers. In this case, it's difficult for pale and inconspicuous albinos to attract the attention of the opposite sex. In addition, it often happens that albinos are completely rejected by the society of their own kind, and sometimes mothers even refuse to feed their babies. So what cute little white creature do we have here? Turns out this is the echidna that a girl photographer from Australia accidentally encountered. Normally, echidnas are covered in dark spines, but this particular one had pale blue eyes, framed by pink skin and white eyelashes. In addition to its snowy coat, its claws were also white. The funny thing is that scientists have never previously encountered an albino echidna in history, but all factors indicate that the photographer is not lying and such echidnas do exist. Since there's almost no information about them, I suggest you write in the comments, how do you think they exist in the collective? Are they also bullied like crows, or are they treated with understanding and respect? Alligator. White tigers, white crows, even white elephants. This all sounds logical in general, but who would have thought that you would ever find a white alligator in the wild? You don't believe me? Take a look at the footage taken in an American theme park. This female was named Pearl. She was taken there in 2009. Like other carriers of albinism among alligators, she has milky white skin and red eyes. In the wild, such individuals have very little chance of survival. Their coloration doesn't allow them to blend in with the environment. They're extremely sensitive to light, suffer from visual impairment, and are vulnerable to many diseases that are not peculiar to the usual representatives of the species. Nevertheless, for once life in captivity is for their benefit. They're provided with food, water, and warmth. Meet Migaloo. And now we'll talk about the world's most famous humpback albino whale living in Australia. His name, as you may have guessed, is Migaloo. He was the first of the albino humpback whales that people managed to encounter. This happened, by the way, in 1991. There's a website and a Twitter account about this whale, and he's protected by special law of the Queensland state and Australia in general. By law, marine vehicles cannot approach the animal closer than 1,600 feet, and aircraft cannot approach him closer than 2,200 feet. The fine for breaking the distance is almost $17,000. That's how much the local authorities protect this incredible creature. You know they're doing the right thing. After all, to encounter such an albino whale is a rarity. Because of the principle of their maturation, if such whales are born anywhere, they most likely simply do not survive the initial stages. Migaloo, on the other hand, is an exception, and it deserves respect. Well, if some of you have any reason to doubt whether he's an albino or not, here's proof. In 2004, scientists were able to take a piece of the whale's skin that fell off after it jumped. DNA analysis confirmed that Migaloo was a male and that it was a true and full-fledged albino. Judging by the fact that the whale has lived for quite a long time, this unusual feature doesn't bother him at all. Here we are talking about albinos, but we haven't touched on the topic of why relatives don't like their different congeners. What can prevent albinos from living normally, and how do they acquire this coloration? Next, you'll learn about it. What is albinism? To begin with, albinism is a gene disorder that is not a gift of nature, but rather the opposite. It cannot be cured or wait for the disorder to end on its own. It's a defect that permanently deprives the animal of its natural coloration. A gene that doesn't allow the pigment to be produced in the animal's body is responsible for the lack of color. Normally, it should be present in the skin, coat, and retina. This gene is recessive. This means that for an albino to be born, it's necessary that both the mother and father have the gene. Scientists estimate that the chance that two such parents will encounter in the wild is about 1 in 20,000. Albinism in nature is observed both complete and partial. Complete albinos are individuals devoid of all natural colors. They have pale skin, white hair, and red eyes. This is more often seen in warm-blooded animals. An alternative scenario is when an animal has a natural color of eyes, paws, tail, and muzzle with the entire body hair devoid of pigment. It also happens that white hair is mixed with colored hair all over the body, and sometimes there are spots all over the body devoid of pigment, while the rest of the body is naturally colored. Anyway, you probably get the gist by now. But what's wrong with that? Why should animals dislike their congeners because of it? And why should albinos themselves experience any discomfort in life? Well, I'll explain it to you now. For all their elegance, such animals are doomed to constant health problems. First, their immunity is lowered throughout their lives, making them an open target for infections. Secondly, albinos albinos always suffer from poor hearing. Also, they very often suffer from poor eyesight. Again, it's all about genetics and the fact that some genes affect others. Now, add to that the drawback of being albino if the person's a predator, simply can't sneak up on its prey unnoticed. The drawbacks can also include the excitement on part of the people. Everyone wants an unusual color skin or some other trophy. This, as you know, makes albinos an ideal target for hunters and poachers. Well, I've already told you about the choice of partners in the wild today. Because of the unsuitable color, it's not easy for albinos to become the best among the congeners. It's difficult for albinos to find a mate, so often they're completely alone throughout their lives. That's it for today. What unusual and dangerous animals should we make an episode about? Let us know in the comments, and thank you so much for watching.